Let's talk about social media and selling and how you can use this information to segment your database and sell different things at your park. I'm Alex Burkett, and this is the Outdoor Alliances Podcast. Hey everyone, hope you're having a great week. If you're like me, you know that we are deep into show season here in the industry, and it is a great time for us to connect with park owners and managers like you, figure out how we can help and better prepare each other for the peak season. So I know we were just in Ohio this last week at the OCOA conference. We'll be heading to Michigan and Louisiana and California coming up soon. And we're really excited. If you're going to be at one of those shows, please stop by and say hi. We've been hearing a lot of great feedback from owners at these shows about how well they're enjoying the podcast and getting a lot of great information. Again, if you're going to be at one of those, I'd love to meet and connect and just say hi. So let's dive into today's episode and talk a little bit about selling. And we're going to continue this series that I said we're going to look at over these next several weeks as we gear up for the main operating season. And a lot of people get really stumped when it comes to social media and selling and how am I going to see a return on investment? Or what does that look like? How do I know if it's working and what I'm doing is actually successful and really beneficial for the time that I'm putting into this marketing tool? And I would say that this answer is complicated, and a lot of different people might try and sell you a bill of goods that's just not true. I wanted to sort of break down how we look at social media and where we can contextualize this in the selling process, what we do to segment this information, and then how that can really help you on the back end to be able to go out and sell different products or campsites to different parts of your audience. So I would say first and foremost, tip number one is don't get confused with selling on social media and delivering value on social media. The types of posts and the information that's being delivered is very different depending on what goal and objective you have in mind. If you're trying to provide value, just provide the value. Don't disguise it as a hidden sale with something mixed in. Now, value can come in a lot of different forms. Educational pieces are really valuable, such as here's what you need to know when coming into the park, here's information on where this is located or where that's located. Whatever the education looks like, that can be really valuable. And really, you're not trying to sell anything through that post, although it's connected to somebody maybe making a purchase. The whole goal of that post was just to make a more educated and informed consumer, and that's exactly what we want. The second type of valuable post may be something a little bit more fun. It could be just a joke or a really funny photo that one of your guests took at the park. People want to be entertained essentially and really connect with you, and it makes your brand feel a little bit more personal, that you're not just a business trying to push product. Hey, there's actually people behind this. A lot of parks, and this is still our bread and butter and still the industry's bread and butter, is mom and pop campgrounds. You know, somewhere between 70 and 80% of all parks are still mom and pop, and they're not a big institution. Those are the parks that we love to work with, and people need to know the story behind it. And so that can be part of the value, is letting people into your world, getting to meet the team, see what's fun and happening behind the scenes. If you're building new projects or expansion, that's really valuable. Lets people know what's going on, what they can be excited about and prepared for the next season. But if you're going to do a post that sells and you're going to include your booking link and you're going to ask for somebody to buy into something, just make it a simple ask. Create your photo, create your video, put whatever media you're going to have with that, but have the post be specifically about selling and trying to convert that audience into a sale. And so we want to find a good ratio of what that is and what that balance looks like, but don't try and disguise a sale as something that's valuable or vice versa. It's just not going to work, and you're not going to build that same community and have the same level of success if you just segmented them off and did one and the other. That's sort of part one. Part two of this, and tip number two, is you might be thinking, well, that's great, Alex. I can segment all of that out. I can figure out what's a valuable post and what's a selling post, but how do I figure out what my audience is like and really what that good rhythm is and how often I can post of each, and how I can really use that information to figure out what to sell? And that's, again, a lot of times where people get stumped and they don't ask the right questions or figure this out. And so the marketing doesn't end up to be as effective as it could be. If you're on there and you're trying to sell the wrong things, you may still not deliver on that sale. And it still may come off as inauthentic because you're not meeting the needs of who your customer is. is. And a lot of times, whether you're building your park, you're operating for a while, you probably have a predefined notion in your mind of what that audience looks like. Who are the people that you think are at your park? If you built your park for families, you might assume that, you're trying to market to families. And although that's probably accurate, and we know that that's most likely true, have you verified that and have you double checked? Park that's built for families may have most of the decision makers coming from grandparents, believe it or not, who buy multiple sites for all of their children and grandchildren who come with them. And you've got to market to that grandparent who's going to be buying 4 or 5 sites instead of saying, oh, it's probably the mom or probably the dad who's making this purchasing decision. The data might tell you something completely different. And maybe you'll realize that a small but large segment of the decision makers booking are older. And so the messaging that you do needs to be different. Figure out how those type of people make their buying decision and how they end up making that point of purchase. So that can really be different and it can vary. And that's where you might be speaking past the wrong person, not providing enough value in the sell and in the ask. You're not checking off that box for somebody new who comes across your content and figures that out. So I would say check the reservation system that you use, or figure out and try and locate this data. What's the age range and the demographic of the people at your park? And if you don't know, one of the best things that you can do, let's say your reservation system doesn't provide age ranges, for instance, or you don't really know who's falling in those demographic ranges, just ask. Have people take a survey. You've already got email addresses from the reservations that you've done. So put everybody in a group, use a free tool like a MailChimp or a Constant Contact, and within a certain number of subscribers, you can send emails for free. So create a free account, import your subscriber list, and send out an email. Use a free survey platform if that's easier. Create a couple of questions and just ask your audience. You're not going to get a full data set. Not everybody's going to reply to you, but it's a great start and it lets you know who are the people that are most engaged and who are really those people who are the cheerleaders, the people that are going to help promote what's happening on social media and really help you push and sell to even more people. So if you find out who those people are through the survey, you might really be able to connect with those people one-on-one and figure out, what do you really want? What do you really need? What can we do better? And getting that qualitative feedback is just as valuable as getting that information right from the reservation system. So if you can find a really good balance of that, you're going to be able to better use your social media platforms to sell and segment that information. So once you figure out who your demographics are and who those people that you're trying to cater to, what you're going to want to do is identify the products and services that appeal to them particularly. And this may be really different. And if you've only got, let's say one type of site at your park, maybe this doesn't apply to you. If you've got multiple different offerings, or again, multiple different date ranges, that's going to really be beneficial to figure out who are the people that camp in each of those windows and how do we get more of them. If you've got more availability in the shoulder seasons, in the spring and the fall, or in the midweek, who are already your midweek campers, or who are already the people that camp in those shoulder seasons? If you can identify that, figure out who those people are and how you can get more of them, we can strategically push ourselves and the times that we ask people for money on social media to align with those goals. So now, not only have you figured out who your audience is and you've got the demographics segmented out to where you can really identify those pieces, you've got a social media campaign that's running well, where you've got a really good balance of value and selling, and it's also aligned with our business goals and objectives so that we can identify the times of year in which we need more revenue and we push people in that area. If you already fill up on 4th of July and Labor Day and Memorial Day, well, you really don't need to market to that. If you're always full and you never need to do anything to sell that. But if you really, really, really are struggling during the spring season when you're trying to get up and running, that's where the messaging needs to be almost all year. It doesn't have to be all the time, but you need to constantly let people know about when you really need the money and when they can really be most beneficial to you. Make your customers work for you and make social media be a selling tool by identifying these pieces. So I hope you found today's episode enjoyable and valuable. We're going to continue our series for the next several weeks on this piece specifically about selling and using each of the different channels that's out there and that we've been asked questions about to identify at the end of the day, if we take it and break it down in 10 minutes like we did here, what are the things that we need to do to make it a selling tool rather than just a marketing and promotion tool. We touched on the difference of that last week, and today we dived into social. Next week, we'll continue into the last parts of our series over the next few weeks. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you back here on Friday for another great guest interview. And until then, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening to the Outdoor Alliances podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and I'll talk to you soon.